Namaskar. Today is January 19th, Kashmir Genocide Day. Today was the day that thousands of Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Hindus left the valley for good. They have been ever since living in refugee camps, and they have actually now spread across the world, but the pain remains, the hurt remains. Despite Article 370 being abrogated, they are still not in a position to be resettled, be given back their property and everything else. The place that they lived for thousands of years, they still cannot hope to go back to. And to understand this and to shine the spotlight on what can be done as Sanatanis, all of us can help the Kashmiri Pandits and the Kashmiri Hindus. Let us welcome Sri Utsav Chakrabarti, who you know already before, and he is now in a new role and he's more active than ever. Utsav, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you, sir?
Namaste, Sri, and very happy to be back. And yes, I am in a new role. I am now part of a new group called Hindu Action, and it is a progression from my previous role with Hindu Pact, and you will see a lot of new things happening, especially as we have a new Congress and the 2024 elections are coming, and there is a lot more need for a lot of innovative things to be done in the space of Hindu advocacy in America. So bless us with your support, and we will be delivering more and more, and keep us in your mind.
Absolutely, Utsav. Welcome and all the best for your new venture. Now, let us take a look at the Kashmiri genocide that took place on the 19th of January. Many of you may have seen Kashmir Files. Kashmir Files, the movie, only shows a very small snippet of what happened. But to understand this, Utsav has put up an excellent PowerPoint, and I would urge him to start now. Shall I start now, Utsav?
Yes, please go ahead.
Here we go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Shri. So what we are doing is we are trying to sum up the Kashmiri Hindu history and their current journey, a very tragic one that they are going through, into a short, crisp slideshow in this case, but a Twitter thread. And because most people around the world, haven't spent the time or the energy or the effort to understand this long, it's a 6,000-year-old civilizational journey like the rest of the Hindu community, and so we kind of tried to make it into a very crisp little thread on Twitter and touch upon very important points, especially more so in the later half of the 20th century and the 21st century, but did explain some of the few things that are happened in the past. So one of the things we did was to just highlight who the Kashmiri Hindus are, or as the Kashmiri Hindus from the valley are called, the Kashmiri Pandits are, and highlight the fact that they are a really old and ancient indigenous community. See, this is the point that is often missed in the conversation on the Kashmiri Hindus. Globally, there are people, organizations that really claim to care about indigenous communities, but have barely paid any attention to the situation of the Kashmiri Pandits. So that's one thing we really intended to highlight. And we also wanted to show in a very quick glimpse the real impact of what the little community that came from the Kashmir Valley has in terms of its reach over both Hindu philosophical work around the Indian subcontinent, as well as in Buddhism. So, we kind of just want to show that the Kashmiri 𝙒𝙪 philosophy that emerged in the valley, and in those days, the valley also was very well connected to the rest of the region, including what is present-day Swat and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and all those places, and they were all Hindu. This philosophical school really extended across the Silk Route, and we show a picture of Shiva and Parvati from Xinjiang, another famous place now in geopolitical conversations. I intentionally didn't refer to Xinjiang as being part of China in the tweet, but we all know where it is. Also, if you go to China, and many of our audiences that have traveled to China, they will realize that the father of Buddhism in China is actually a Kashmiri monk named Kumarajiva, and they actually acknowledge that this is a statue from China of Kumarajiva as they represented it. So you can see the extent of impact that this community has had in the region, not just in India, but in the larger Silk Route, Central Asian region as well. And I can go on and on about Lalitaditya and Nagabhat and all the scholars and kings that but it becomes then an essay and a book. So we want to contain down this content as short as possible. So that was the intent of this thread on January 19th, because it is about the genocide of a community that has been going on for a long time, even though we are commemorating it on January 19th in a short way. So then I also kind of quickly mention what changed, the cataclysmic change that happened in the Kashmir region and also surrounding regions in the 12th and 13th century. Especially the valley fell to the Islamists in the 13th century, and eventually by the 14th century, a lot of the achievements of this continuous civilization that was going on for the last 3,000 years prior, at least well recorded in the last prior to the 13th century for 3,000 plus years, that was quickly it collapsed in a very short period of time. And I think we wanted to represent it through the Martan temple, which is one of the largest temples in the northern Indian region, in ruins now. But the complex itself is very impressive and one of the biggest sun temples in the Indian subcontinent that was ever built. So that was that's one way of we wanted to share to the rest of the world that's how the collapse happened, and then the Kashmiri community really went through a lot of tragedy and suffering. And again, each of these tweets can be written in the form of a book, but we again wanted to show it in a short way. And the other thing we then move towards is what role Pakistan sees itself as in that region. And this is very important for current analysts in America and around the world, as well as, of course, people in the Indian subcontinent are quite well aware of this, that Pakistan actually sees itself as the beholders of the historical Islamic military objectives that were driven by the ideology of 𝙤𝙬 So Pakistan really takes upon itself the responsibility as a nation state, or I should probably say in quotes nation states, the role of what the original Ghazi invaders had in that region. And that is something that should concern the world, and it concerns us all, and we have been a victim of that. But that is something that should concern the world at large. And the outcome of that continuous psychological obsession with 𝙤𝙬 has been that 1/3 of the Kashmir region, Jammu and Kashmir region, is occupied by Pakistan, and of course Gilgit-Baltistan is also occupied by Pakistan. So that is something we wanted to highlight. And then in the next tweet we kind of wanted to drive home the point of that often it is nowadays the revisionists say that everything went bad in Pakistan after 𝙒𝙑𝙀 came to power, or only after the Afghan Mujahideen crisis happened and Pakistan got radicalized. That is not the case as far as I see it and we see it. In fact, Pakistan's founding fathers saw Kashmir as something to be grabbed, and they consistently, since 1947, August 1947, from the day they got independence from the British, consistently and actively conspired to try to take the Kashmir Valley militarily. And they fought 3 wars over it. And I mean, this picture I took from a book that was written by Brigadier General Akbar Khan, who was the commander of the military effort from the Pakistani army side on the valley. And in this picture, it shows Prime Minister of Pakistan, second Prime Minister of Pakistan, Liaquat Ali Khan, with Akbar Khan, standing in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, pointing to the villages that have been emptied of all their Kashmiri Hindu populations, and seemingly quite happy about it. So
Utsav, this book by Akbar Khan, is it available in any library in the United States?
it is actually not. Uh,
Yeah.
I took a PDF, photocopy, a scanned PDF from India, and I brought it over to the US. Actually, it's not even in print anymore.
I
So,
see. Hey,
but
yeah, if you get a chance, just send it my way that I can put this thing because people need to read this thing. This is history. Because that fellow admits how the Pakistani army regulars were sent in camouflaged as raiders, and all this is BS. These guys have been doing the same playbook from 47 onwards.
yeah, yeah. So Kargil was not something that was. Kargil was done has been done 5 times before.
Yes,
And
yes,
each time it
yes.
hasn't worked. To some extent, it did work in 1947 and 48 for them. They do have 1/3 of Jammu and Kashmir in their occupation, so that did work for them for a while. But I want to say something interesting about this about Akbar Khan. He used the code name. Look at the ideological craziness that has seeped into this population for such a long time. He used the code name Tariq, and he did it because the Tariq, I think Tariq bin Zayed was the one who was the Arab ruler who conquered Spain, or at least part of the Spanish region, and crossed the Gibraltar, Rock of Gibraltar, and so to him, attacking Jammu and Kashmir from Pakistan, a land that has gone into the hands of the Kafir, just like Spain was, and burning the bridges behind, because Tariq bin Zayed supposedly burnt the ships that he came by, so that his soldiers have to only fight forward and they cannot retreat, even if they were defeated. So these myths and heroism of Middle Eastern Islamism is so deep in amongst these Pakistani military leadership, even in 1947, that even the code names and everything that they used was directly connected to the original expansionist jihadist narratives.
Utsav, this is so interesting because these people think they are Arabs, and the Arabs say they always call them as you are from Hindustan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they can all trace back their Hindu heritage. Just depends whether they go back 200 years or 500 years, and still
Right.
there is this delusional desire to be the Khalid, uh, Tariq bin Zayeds and the Walid and all these people from Middle East.
Please continue, sir.
So essentially, this then we kind of talk about what happened in 1989 and 1990, which is related to January 19th being the Kashmir Genocide Day, or the Kashmiri Pandit Genocide Day, as many people call it. But my point that we are trying to highlight here is that this didn't happen in a bubble, or this didn't happen because of policies or politics in the 80s or 90s. This was a continuum that goes back way before many centuries and keeps on reviving itself in many ways, and it's not going to go away, which is the carry away point I want to have everybody understand, that this is not something that a lot of people have, both supporters of Prime Minister Modi and opponents, and a lot of people have criticized Article 370 and are expecting things to happen very quickly. My point here is that things won't happen quickly. This is a civilizational struggle, and that has to be won in a slow and steady and consistent manner. But again, going back to this topic, we highlight the events that happened in 1989 and in 1990, especially the days when the Kashmiri Pandit population was literally given 2 days to pack everything and leave. And while they were given that time, mosques were blaring, you have to convert, you have to, leave your daughters and mothers behind, or you are going to be killed. And, Girja Tikku and Tika Lal Taplu and all these popular, Kashmiri Pandits and average everyday Kashmiri Pandits were being brutally murdered. And I think a lot of conversation has already happened on that, so we did not go into detail of that. again, we wanted to highlight, again, in these tweets, that the Kashmiri Pandits, even when they left in 1989 and 90, they were not left behind. So this is another point we want to make people to understand. And I have listed, there's this graphic lists a series of attacks that were targeted against Hindus of Kashmir who are not in the valley, but have already left the valley or are in other parts of Jammu and all the adjoining regions between 1996 and 2002, which means by that time the valley is pretty much empty. And you can see that literally every month they were being targeted, which tells us that, and again, in the next few slides, I'll cover a couple of more detailed massacres. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the extermination of the Kashmiri, indigenous Kashmiri Hindus from the valley and from the other regions around it is a project in itself for the Islamists. It has nothing to do whether Kashmir becomes part of Pakistan or whether Kashmir is, there is autonomy or all other political objectives that are often brought into the conversation. It has nothing to do with that. They really want to exterminate these people. And you can see that since 1991 to 2005, the number of massacres that were committed outside the valley. And I mean, I highlight a couple of them, and I think the Twitter thread will keep growing. I am on tweet number 10 out of 13, and I think I should have put like 20 tweets out. But this is a tragedy, and we have to understand the scale and the intent of it. So I think that's pretty much I'm highlighting a few of the well-known massacres that took place, and really the brutality and the scale of it, all happening outside the valley itself. So
Utsav, Udhampur is only 60 kilometers. Udhampur is only 60 kilometers northeast of Jammu. You are still in the Jammu Valley before you start climbing the Kashmir mountains to go into the Kashmir Valley. So correct. That means that danger came this close. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
They were targeting, I mean, I can do a whole thread on what was happening in Jammu, Doda and Kishtwar. But by mid-90s, the valley was already completely emptied out, mostly of Hindus. And they had moved into the rural and the hill regions of Doda, Kishtwar, where the people are really poor. The Hindu community there lives on at a subsistence level, doing farming and shepherding, stuff like that. And they were targeting them at that point of time. And by the time Kargil war ended, Jammu was fully under their gun. And there were bomb attacks happening in Jammu. There were terrorist attacks happening in temples. Jammu was... But, I have to appreciate the resilience of the people of Jammu and Kashmir and how they eventually were able to push back this growing Islamism, violent Islamism that had reached them by the time of the Kargil war.
See, this is something that is not often talked about because everybody thinks that, on 1990s, January 19th, the Kashmiri Pandits left the valley and then these people stopped. No, they did not stop. They wanted to keep moving, pushing further south. And that is something that not many people talk about. I mean, shame on the press that they didn't even bother covering this thing in the detail it should have been covered. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, you are. So what you said is absolutely a point that I and our team wants to drive through. And I'm pretty sure experts on Kashmir are fully aware of that as well. That the effort was not going to end. The effort from Pakistan and the effort from the jihadis was not going to end in the valley itself. They saw this as an ongoing process of de-Hinduization of first the Kashmir Valley, then the mountain and the hill regions in Doda, Kishtwar, Udhampur and all those places, then Jammu, and then eventually further south and all the way up to Delhi. And many of the Kashmiri terrorists in the early 2000s and late 90s did make multiple terror attacks across the country, including the parliament attack.
Yes,
that was directly driven by Kashmiri jihadis.
Are you going to go to the next slides, or we are done with the slides?
I think we are done with the slides here. I think I should make a new thread on all these other things I'm throwing at you.
Well, see, one thing that many of us don't seem to remember is that, and the date, exact date, I don't know, but in a way, everybody who is today in Bharatvarsh is actually a Kashmiri Pandit, and I'll tell you why. In thousands of years ago, there was a volcanic eruption in Indonesia. The eruption was so strong that it wiped out population practically everywhere on Earth. I mean, the nuclear, the ash kept spreading. There was no sunlight for days on, and the only place that it did not spread was the area beyond the Himalayas. Okay, and I think it is 60,000 years or something like that. You're talking, thousands of tens of
Yeah, yeah,
thousands of years.
yeah. Ice age scale of human evolution.
Right, right. So the only population of humanity that was left was what is modern day Kashmir. From there only everybody started coming out.
Yeah, so see, it's not just the people. You can see even philosophically, there is so much connect
Yes,
between the philosophy. And so, because philosophy is ideas. Ideas don't travel unless minds meet.
right.
So it also is a very good measure of that. Let's say a Shaiva in Kerala was very much in communication with the Shaiva in Kashmir,
Right.
and not to mention Buddhism, where Kashmiri. I mentioned Kumar Jiva and how he ended up in China. So see, in the historical scale of things, even there has been a strong connect between Kashmir's, the surrounding regions, and the rest of India, almost at the level of the umbilical cord. I mean, it's inseparable in every way. And I think that's something that the Pakistanis or the Islamists uh, need to understand. And more importantly, we need to work towards educating the Western world on, because the Western world really sees and has been fed this continuous, BS on Jammu and Kashmir, beginning from 15th century onwards. And therefore, the Western world really doesn't understand what the history of Kashmir Valley is.
Absolutely. So now let's quickly touch upon the other two things that you've been actively pursuing. I just recently came across an initiative by one congressman who is trying to define that Pakistan no longer be treated on equal par as a NATO country. That's one. And the other one was the unfinished business of declaring the 1971 Hindu atrocities in Pakistan as a genocide, right? Can you please quickly update our viewers on where things stand as far as you are at the heartbeat of this whole thing?
No, no, I'm one of the cogs in the wheel that is hopefully a successfully running and smoothly running wheel. The 1971 genocide resolution is we are talking to lawmakers. We are going to be trying to bring it again because it is something that deserves to be recognized. And there were so many people who really wanted this to happen in a bipartisan way. What was unique about the 1971 genocide recognition was the left in the Democratic Party and the center and the right in the Republican Party joined hands to bring it from the onset. That shows the consensus that is missing in every aspect of American politics, but it is unique. So we are going to work on that and see how quickly we can bring it. The other resolution, HR 80, that was just introduced, and that resolution, I believe, has been introduced by one congressman who is a Republican congressman, and I genuinely believe that resolution helps us clearly delineate. I think it was being brought by Andy Biggs from Arizona.
Right.
See, the effort of that resolution is to primarily isolate Pakistan for what it is. Pakistan is a country that has the highest number of UN designated terrorists. Pakistan is a country that killed more than 2,500 Americans, soldiers, directly using the Taliban in the last 20 years. How can that country be considered a proxy of America and a non-NATO ally? Like it just doesn't make any sense. It's, if America doesn't realize who its friends are, then really it is. I think this resolution addresses that, and I hope it makes it through. It will be a procedural thing, but it will open the door for average Americans to understand what Pakistan really is.
Absolutely, and I think you are coming on PGurus channel to kind of open people's eyes is going to help a lot. And viewers, those of you who have relatives in the United States, do share this link. I mean, it's very important that people understand how the Hindus worldwide. Now, I'm saying worldwide because it's not just Kashmir. It is also Pakistan, where the three girls, and this is a wide swath, not just Hindus, but majority Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Parsis, they are being forced into Islam, and they're first raped, sometimes the entire village. So this is unspeakable act. And another thing that is happening is in Bangladesh also. So all along you have these problems where one community, because it's a peace-loving community in deed, I mean, they talk about not wanting to destroy or thrust their religion on the others, and they get rewarded by being killed or forcibly converted like this. Very, very sad. I mean, I'm hoping that some genealogists will start talking about every prominent Muslim leader starting from Pakistan moving west and saying, oh, this person is 1/16th Hindu, this is 1/8th Hindu, just like Bhutto's mom was a Hindu. So he wanted to prove that he was more Muslim than all the Muslims.
Not just Bhutto. You take Iqbal, Allama Iqbal, the
Yes.
ideological founder of Pakistan, even before Jinnah. I mean, Jinnah was inspired by Iqbal. Just one generation ago, he was a Kashmiri Pandit, actually. So this whole story, if you look, is very sad. It's essentially an ideological, it's like a virus that infects, and then these people act like literally ideological zombies. And this is the story of the subcontinent for a long time. If you even look at the Mughals, and the Mughals are probably the most discussed Muslim dynasty in the Indian subcontinent. Even though they ruled for a very short period of time, barely ruled for like 250 years properly. So the Mughals, by the time they reached Akbar, not Akbar, I would say Shah Jahan, they were mostly Rajputs. They kept marrying, kidnapping Rajput girls and kept marrying them and keeping them in their harems, and they were not Mongols in any way or Pashtuns in any way by the time they reached Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. So that tells us that it's all in the head. So that's where we have to focus.
Yes, indeed, that is absolutely right. Viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. And as always, a pleasure having you, Utsav, on our channel. Namaskar.
Namaskar.